What's up, everybody? Gojo here, and today I'm gonna make a video about the new Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show by Disney. This is the second episode. I'm gonna do all 4 episodes that are out. I already did the first episode if you haven't seen it, but it ended off with Peter interacting with Norman the same way he did in the live-action MCU when he met Tony, but it plays out just a little bit differently. He doesn't know he's Spider-Man right away, as we know, or at least come to find out. But something that's a little different about this Norman in particular that I wanted to make clear. I'm pretty sure after watching all 4 episodes that he is portrayed as a genuine Norman Osborn. He is a genuine person that is fighting for the betterment of his city, New York City, and his company is something that he uses and utilizes to better his city. And I don't think that he is immediately should be written off as evil or anything like that. Because even in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, Norman Osborn isn't necessarily a bad person. He just doesn't have the best approach to things. But in this universe, I think we should just give Norman a breather. We're putting so much expectation on him because we know him to be the Goblin, the Green Goblin, and he isn't that guy yet. So I think we should just let him breathe. But anyway, moving on. We'll get to more of Norman later. And immediately after that interaction, Peter doing, crime stopping as Spider-Man. There's this scene of him absolutely destroying this man's back. I don't know if they did this shit on purpose, but he cracked the cement behind him on this chimney to this building. And if this is true and he actually did this, I'm pretty sure he has back or like spine damage or something like that, because like you can't just hit something that hard, break cement, and then like not be even a little bit damaged afterwards. But anyway, that could just be attributed to him being a newer Spider-Man, not really knowing his full strength. I think he had another moment like that in the episode. And another thing I kind of didn't like, I know I'm nitpicking, but he has this camera, the villain or the criminal, that he took pictures of the passcode to this girl's apartment on. I didn't get pictures of that, I didn't screenshot it. But anyway, he ends up giving him the camera back. Like he webs the camera to his chest. And I guess he's relying on the fact that his webs are really good, and the fact that the police will catch him and find the evidence and then arrest him for it. But like, I don't know. To me, that's also another rookie move. But moving on, and I know I said that I love it in the title, but just stay with me. There's a lot of parts that shine in this episode and the next 3 episodes, but just stay with me. Something that doesn't shine. This motherfucker, I don't like him at all. He's like one of the worst characters in the show. He's just overly mean for no reason, and I've had people like this in my real life, which makes him realistic. I'm not going to talk about him much anymore, but moving on. We have these scenes with Lonnie and some of the other members of the school, this sweaty hand motherfucker right here, and they're dancing around the trophy, praising it, you know what I mean, for before the game. And they give it to Pete, and this is something that I like that shines in this specific universe that he is in. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's not 616. I don't know what number it is, but whatever number universe it is, he isn't bullied in this universe, like at all. Like the people that bully him are kind of just people that are like bullies themselves, like real life people, like the fucking motherfucking scientist teacher motherfucker. I don't remember his name, but he is just straight, you know what I mean, asshole, and I just don't like him. But anyway, another thing I wanted to talk about was Peter's like rookie mistake, another rookie mistake he made. I know. But he fucking changes his costume in this hallway, and I don't know. It to me is just like, I feel like they're doing it on purpose. But moving past, this fight was really cool. I tried to look on the internet to find any comic or any character resembling this other than the fucking Flash villain, but I couldn't find anybody. So I just concluded that he's an original character, I guess, which is pretty cool. and he burns down the wrong building for whatever reason. I don't know if that was also another rookie mistake, I guess, from the villain's point of view. But yeah, moving on. I'm only moving a little fast because I'm trying to skim through this episode because it wasn't even supposed to be a part of this video, but I decided to do it anyway. He gets back to class or whatever. He obviously is late or whatever the fuck, and they're mad at him. And he tries to explain, and then he gets bullied a little bit by the teacher. And then Norman calls him into class. But something else that happens in the B plot is he missed the party they promised he would go to with Nico at the football game. That's something that I didn't put into the video because I kind of skipped past it because it wasn't important. But anyway, something funny happens where somebody walks into the party that looks like Peter wearing a blue jacket. She waves to him, very excited. And I got really hype in this moment thinking it was Peter. But spoiler alert, it wasn't fucking Peter. It was some random fucking nerd. This is what he looked like. And yeah, so she got fed up. She left the party, and on the way out, somebody spilled some shit on her shirt, which was fucking horrible. You just makes you feel bad for her. Some real ass shit that happens, you know what I mean? Good B plot. But moving on, Peter getting called to Norman's office. He thinks he's in trouble, tries to talk his way out of it, but it ends up just being a photo that Norman has on his computer, or is a video he has on his computer of Peter changing into a Spider-Man outfit. Now, this is what I said earlier about him making a rookie mistake. But moving on to episode 3. So yeah, this is episode 3, and it's called Secret Identity Crisis. And as the name implies, Peter is very guilty about him revealing his secret identity by accident. He feels like an idiot, pretty much. That's the best way I can describe it to you. But moving forward, he has this moment with Nico where he hears her say, "You're Spider-Man," because he's hallucinating because he thinks Norman's talking to him. I just thought that was cool foreshadowing. But a lot of their dialogue is very smooth, fluid. I like how they interact. Even her interacting with I think it's a foster care mom or something like that. I think that was pretty cool, pretty open, pretty honest of the writers to put in there. But moving forward, Peter ends up going to this thing with Norman Osborn. I guess it's like a dinner. And then it ends up opening up into this dinner hall that he rented out completely, like fucking Batman. And he did this so him and Peter can talk, just him and Peter. And in this talk, he tells Peter to order food, and he looks at the prices. And this is a moment where I think that Peter is really humble, and it shows his humanity and also shows a little bit of his you know what I mean, social class, like where his money is. He isn't very wealthy, and neither is his family, but that's always been a thing with Spider-Man. We've always known that. But moving forward, we have this moment with the Bonnie and Clyde criminal idiot duo where they drop off some money into a dumpster, and the dumpster climbs away onto a roof. And I kind of suspected I knew who this was, but we'll leave that for later in the video. Moving forward, we go into a scene where May is kind of packing up everything in the apartment, and you can see on the counter there's some eviction notices or some late bills, past bills, I think it was. And Peter's like talking her out of there, trying to convince her that it's not a good idea to sell everything, you know what I mean? Some of that stuff is Ben's. They even show for a moment a bowling jersey, which I thought was pretty cool, giving Ben some character. Moving forward to the scenes where he is in school and he's talking to Nico as his like kind of support again, which I really like Nico. I think that she's a good love interest, potential love interest for the future when she ends up finding out that he's Spider-Man. But she ends up telling him that he shouldn't stay at Oscorp to get money for May, even though it is a good idea and Norman should be trusted, in my opinion. Then we have moments where they talk about getting lunch, and this very unique scene where Lonnie is trying to order lunch for Peter as a gift, and he ends up not being able to pay for it. So I think they try to show that he's poor, but then he ends up getting a call from his mom about his little brother being in trouble. So he ends up going home, and this is where the B plot and the A plot kind of split off into two separate sections, and where I actually think the show gets very interesting. So he ends up going home and he tries to console his mom about what happened. And apparently the police were at the door with his little brother, and he is furious. So he's trying to console his mother because she's crying. And in the A plot, the criminal idiot duo are trying to rob a store, or I think it's a bank, and they end up getting caught up by Spider-Man. Spider-Man goes to the scene, and I have this written in my notes, he banters a lot, and I think this is something that's just because he's a newbie once again, but it causes him to first in the first half of the fight get beat, and then he ends up turning it around a little bit, then he gets beat again with this cool ass kick. And then we switch back over to the B plot where Lonnie is getting him out of this gang house by the 110th Street gang. And then we meet the leader of the 110th Street gang, Big Don. And Big Don is this brooding kind of kingpin type character that I guess runs a part of the streets of New York. And he is bargaining for Lonnie's little brother, and saying that he came in uninvited and didn't introduce himself, anything. So I guess gang etiquette. So the way that they resolve this is pretty interesting. But moving back onto the A plot, Peter is like kind of getting beat. So Norman kind of jumps in by hacking into his comms and helps him win the fight. And then at the end of the day, Peter kind of goes to Norman and accepts his original offer of helping him be Spider-Man and being his guy in the chair. Then over on the B plot, we have Lonnie trading his little brother's spot in the gang for him. So pretty much what transpired was he told Big Don that he would take his little brother's place in the gang and do whatever Big Don says. So he's pretty much his bitch now, and this is gonna intertwine with his school. It's gonna fuck it up with his sports and shit that he has going on, which I thought was pretty cool because this is shit that really happens in New York and on the streets to people, and gang violence is real. So I thought that them taking a really street level approach was pretty cool. Moving on to episode 4. So in this episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I think it's probably one of my favorite episodes because it exemplifies a lot of points that are very important when it comes to Spider-Man and him being Spider-Man and Peter Parker being Spider-Man in specific. Not anybody else, not Amadeus Cho, not Ben Reilly, not anybody but Peter Parker. So we start off the episode with him giving his presentation on whatever the fuck they all have their own presentations on. I think it was I don't really remember, but anyway, he bombs it because obviously he hasn't been there and everybody knows that. So the teacher starts laying into him. I'm not going to give much time to this motherfucker. I hate him. But moving on, he gets called to Osborn's office again. He meets Harry briefly, and this was a moment that I thought was pretty important, or foreshadowing that Harry doesn't really get acknowledged by his dad in the scene where Peter kind of mentions that he just met him. He kind of brushes that off, which I could assume would be foreshadowing for what's to come later. I'll get around to talking about that, but something else I really liked was that they have this mode, or Norman has this mode where he goes completely do not disturb mode and everything gets shut down. And then another thing I liked about this scene was that they showed that it was kind of like comic panels, and I like that. They do that every once in a while, and it exemplifies the fact that they're trying to recreate a comic book in animated format, which I love. They also show for a brief moment some of the other things that would be happening at the current time point in the MCU in this point in time. That might be confusing, but pretty much in the original timeline, 616, our MCU live action, Homecoming took place after Civil War because Tony recruited Spider-Man for his side of the team, which doesn't happen in this universe because obviously Norman is the one who kind of recruits Peter. And in this scene, he kind of tells him that a lot of the other superheroes that currently exist in this universe are busy dealing with their own repercussions of their actions. And in this scene in particular, they're dealing with the repercussions of them creating Ultron. So Ultron already exists. They're dealing with the damage they did to Sokovia, all these different cities, the lives they lost, and it's all because of them. So he's kind of telling him like, oh, you're your own hero. You need to be this, and that there's some sort of law that has been imposed now. I think this is what happens in the beginning with Black Panther and all of that, where they propose the idea that superheroes now need to register in order to be an official superhero to fight crime in order to not get a fine. So I thought that was pretty cool, more realistic, grounded Spider-Man, I guess. But moving on. So this is one of the biggest talking points of this show, the fact that Spider-Man has different suits. You can have your opinions, I'll have mine, and I'm going to tell you them because you're watching my video. I pretty much don't care that he wears other suits in this series. I know a lot of people are mad at the fact that he's not wearing the red and blue immediately, which if I were to propose a couple opinions, I would say, one, I think the fact that they didn't show the suit immediately is almost like a teaser, like an itch that we're waiting to be scratched, because we know that every series we've ever gotten, he immediately has the suit, except for this one. This one is in a different approach. It isn't the norm, the cream of the crop, what we're used to. This is different, a different take. So they blue ball you just a little bit with the red and blue, but I think it's important. I think it's very important to make you want what is known, what gives the audience that feeling of hope, all of these different feelings that Spider-Man gives you. And I think that they do a good job of making you want that. And they even show that Peter originally had plans for his suit, so they don't give credits for his creation of the original suit to other people or Norman or Tony, because in the original MCU, it kind of makes it seem like Tony was the one that came up with the design of the red and blue Spider-Man outfit, which isn't. It kind of takes away from Peter's intelligence and creativity, which I don't like, but this brings it back to him. Obviously, you can see the lenses grow and shrink to show emotion, but Norman in this episode kind of brushes it off, which I think is also important because obviously he wants what's best for Spider-Man, and Spider-Man currently is a kid and he doesn't know everything that might be in harm's way of him, or he doesn't know what might be to come. So Norman thinks that he has all these kinks and everything worked out, and he has the ideal picture of a superhero in his head, which makes sense with some of the other superheroes that exist in this universe. But as you can see, this suit isn't what Peter lines up with at all. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of convinced myself that like, oh, okay, I can see him wearing something like this, but obviously it immediately strikes you as this isn't Spider-Man, this is like Spider Knight or whatever the fuck. And immediately, as soon as he tries to fight crime, we see what happens. And this is another example of why I think the red and blue is so important and why they did this in the first place, to show why it's important. Because if they just put the red and blue on him, you would never understand what it would be like to not have the red and blue. You know what I mean? To have that taken away from you, to not ever have it in the first place. So it's a pretty cool concept that I think they introduced. And furthermore, they go more into depth with a couple other costumes. But moving on, we go back over to the B plot and we start seeing scenes of the Big Don plot and the 10th Street gang, 110th Street gang, my bad, kind of interfering with Lonnie's life and him trying to, you know what I mean, do damage control and kind of hide it from every single person around him, which I don't think is the best idea, but I get why. Because if he does let this information out, people are going to instantly want to help him, spread the word, you know what I mean, get him out of his situation, which wouldn't be best for his family or him in general. Moving back into the A plot again, we have another suit that is fucking horrendous. This one's even worse than the last one, in my opinion. It reminds me of that one parody film with what's his name? He's my favorite voice actor for Spider-Man. If you didn't know, his name's Drake Bell. He definitely portrayed Spider-Man in one of my favorite ways, but we're not talking about the Disney Spider-Man that came out a minute ago. We're talking about this Disney Spider-Man, a part of the official MCU and shit. So obviously the suit isn't lining up with Peter either. He has trouble controlling it, and when he does eventually get control, he gets hit by a bus, which is pretty funny and leaves open an opportunity for a joke that I liked that I didn't really laugh at, but I thought was pretty cool. They did the windshield wiper like he was an actual bug that got splattered on the window, but it did make me realize that this suit and a lot of the other ones that he comes up with, they take away from aspects of Spider-Man. Like this one in particular makes it harder for Spider-Man to be a very reactive character, because Spider-Man is a reflexive character. Everything he does is on reflex reaction, and he perceives events and things that are happening on his own accord, and he reacts as quick as he can. And I don't think that this suit allows him to do that, see the same way as the webs would. But moving on back to the B plot. We have another funny gang scene with Lonnie trying to do homework while he's, you know what I mean, at the little gang lounge, and Big Don gets mad as fuck at him and just fucking berates him and makes fun of him, and everybody fucking gets mad at him and makes fun of him as well. And then because of this, he says that this motherfucker needs to earn his respect, so he sends him into enemy gang territory to pick up food. So this motherfucker sends him to this crazy ass gang led by Scorpion, and he picks up the chicken fajitas or whatever the fuck, and he kind of gets pressed by this opposite gang telling him like he needs to warn his leader, blah blah blah, which I see why Big Don did this, you know what I mean, to strike fear. And real quick, isn't this the motherfucker that attacked Spider-Man in the first episode? But anyway, moving on. He basically gets chased through town and back to their hideout, and he gets on a train or whatever, loses the dude. And Big Don explains to him that Scorpion is the leader of this gang and is this crazy mofo that we know, obviously, from the live action MCU, that will do anything for money and doesn't really care and kills people and shit. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that they threw him in here, and they're building Spider-Man's rogue gallery brick by brick. Like, it is literally brick by brick, and I fuck with that so heavy. So moving back on, we have this scene where Spider-Man's kind of crawling around creepy as fuck in this tree, and then he pops out and scares the shit out of this little girl, and to the point where the little girl starts screaming, and it's a whole weird scene where Spider-Man kind of gets berated for being a weirdo, even though he helped her get her balloon back. I kind of think this scene was unnecessary. Like, I feel like the audience already gets it, but I see why they do it, and it makes sense, and it exemplifies another aspect of Spider-Man's costume being important, that color and approach are very important when it comes to being a superhero. And this is something Peter realizes along with Norman. And I wanted you guys to pay attention to the little girl and her mom that are in this scene, because they pop up later, and I think it's pretty cool how they bring them back. And I think the suit name for this one was like Flying Spider or whatever. I thought it was pretty cool. Just, it's not the right time for this suit. It's like, this suit is like a fucking stealth suit. But anyway, Norman tells him to go back. They have a conversation about how trash ass this suit is and what is to come, and how he has been putting a little too much pressure on Peter as a superhero and why he's been doing that. He kind of explains to him that the other superheroes that have been doing superhero work aren't really doing what they need to. Like, the Hulk has gone on rage attacks that need to be shut down, and a lot of these superheroes aren't taking responsibility. So this is the moment where he gives Peter his white suit that I think he kind of listened to a lot of the feedback, and he finally produced a suit that resembles and represents what Spider-Man mostly is trying to portray. And I love this suit. They have moments where they reference Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man with the costume and the looking in the glass on another building. And these swing scenes in this show are just really good, and I love them. I think that they knew what they were doing, focusing in on moments where he is just swinging, because that's a lot of what the main MCU didn't do. They gave us 1 or 2 scenes each movie, and that was about it. And we liked it, but it wasn't enough. It was always good, but not enough. We need more. And this show, every episode is giving us good amounts of scenes of him swinging. And I like that. So moving forward, we get into the conflict, some of the what's going on in the streets. He says there's no conflict, but then he ends up immediately finding somebody robbing a bank, which I thought was pretty funny. So in these scenes right here, we see a couple of the villains. I don't know any of these people. I think that's the Rhino. Could be wrong. Spider-Man swings in to save the day, obviously stop the robbery, but in the midst of this, they crash into a bunch of cars with this big ass van, and Spider-Man has to decide whether he saves the people or goes after the van. Ultimately, he decides to save the people because he's Spider-Man, which I think is an amazing scene. They could have easily went the route where he's a novice newbie and somebody dies because he decided to go after the villains instead of saving people, which should be Spider-Man's #1 priority at the end of the day. Never letting anybody get hurt or die in the process, which is hard, but he should always live by that. That's one of the main things Spider-Man does in the comics. Now, something Spider-Man doesn't live by is saving people that don't fucking need to be saved. So in this scene, I get what they were going for, but they should have made it a way more brutal car crash, because half of these people didn't need to be saved. They could have just got out of their fucking cars normally. I get there's a fire happening, but the fire does not affect these people. He literally just opens the door, the back door for her daughter, and opens the front door for her. Also, if you didn't notice, this is the mom and daughter from earlier, from the scene where he saves her balloon from the tree or whatever the fuck, how it didn't pop, I don't know. But I like how they use a lot of the same characters in this world. It makes the world feel full and recognizable. But anyway, moving back to what happens kind of in the C plot, the villains get arrested, whatever, he didn't really need to save them. One of them actually escapes and takes all of the money, so kind of leaves them high and dry, which I thought was pretty funny also. And it also kind of leads into something more important, but I'll get into that later. Spider-Man ends up having this moment where he has to dive through fire because there's one person left. That car is upside down in the midst of a big ass flame, and he doesn't know if he's fireproof or not. And he takes the leap to save the person regardless of if he gets hurt or not. He bears his pain and bears himself, and he jumps through the fire, realizing that he is fireproof because of the suit. Something else that Norman implemented. And he saves the guy, cool as hell. And that's the end of that. He swings off kind of quick, goes back to Norman's place to tell him about the good news, how the suit worked, everything, he liked it. And he immediately walks inside, and something he doesn't notice after immediately taking off his mask, another rookie mistake, is that Harry was right there. And if you go back, let's rewind a little bit, go back. You can see Harry sitting right there next to Norman. You're just moving too fast, Peter. And I think this is something that is gonna be one of the last times that it happens. I don't think that he's gonna keep showing his face to people. Obviously, that's something that as Spider-Man you cannot do. I think they just needed 1 or 2 times of him revealing his identity on accident to people he's very close to, in order to realize that how important his secret identity is and how important it is to keep that mask on at all times. Like Batman literally be having 2 masks or 2 cowls because he doesn't want to get found out of his original identity. So I did think this scene was pretty funny, but it audibly made me say, oh my God, Peter, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I've had that moment before with other, you know what I mean, versions of this character where he takes his mask off for whatever fucking reason. But yeah, I thought this scene was funny because of the way Norman reacted and the way Harry reacted. But I also think it's very important moving forward in the next episode. I'm not going to review it this video, but if you watch my video, you like this show, and you go watch it, you will see in the next coming episodes that Harry and Peter aren't necessarily best friends at first. And that's something that is to do with this universe in specific, because normally they've been friends for a long time, or at least since school or high school or whatever, middle school. And in this universe, they don't know each other at all. So they need something of a link in order to become best friends, in order to create that relationship that ends up turning sour in the later series. If that even happens, I'm not sure. I would expect so, but if it doesn't, it makes sense.
But still, regardless, they need to have Peter and Harry become best friends somehow. And I think him revealing his identity by accident and finding out that Peter has to rely on Harry to not reveal his identity, and Harry has to rely on Peter as one of his few people in his life that's genuine and doesn't use him for his money or his status. I think this is going to create a very unique bond between these two people that makes them rise above a lot of the other relationship Peter ends up coming in contact with throughout the series. And just a quick mention, I love how Peter reacted to finding out again that he accidentally revealed his identity by just slipping up and being too uncaring of what people can see. But moving on, one of the last scenes in the episode that we get is of the girl that originally jumped out of the van and stole the money buying a product from Dr. Otto Octavius himself, again, building the rogue gallery brick by brick. He's already indulging in criminal activity. I guess him and Peter have no interaction in this universe, which is also cool. I like that. Some of these characters can't always just be a good person in the beginning and then turning bad in the end. Like, that's not how always villains are. Some people are just fucking evil and don't care about morality. And I think that even in the original Tobey Maguire trilogy, there were signs of that in Otto's personality. It was never like he was forced to steal the money. He literally convinced himself with the chip that he installed, even though it went haywire, he convinced himself with the voices in his head that stealing the money was worth it in order to get his end goal. And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening here. He's just driven by ulterior motives in order to accomplish his end goal, which might not be evil, but his motives and morals aren't necessarily on the good side, which is why Peter has to intervene. But yeah, I think the show sets up very nicely a lot of different themes. And the next episode that I watched was very good. It revealed a couple things that I think are staples in Spider-Man franchise. So yeah, if you guys like that and you guys want more reviews on this show, let me know. But with that, stay sturdy, my friends.